Italy's Prime Minister admits coronavirus cases could rise as the country is set to ease travel restrictions from early June.
Stiamo affrontando questo rischio e dobbiamo accettarlo.
We are facing this risk and we must accept it. Otherwise, we will never be able to start again.
The UK Education Secretary warns the longer England schools are closed, the more children will miss out as the government presses on with plans to reopen them. Barack Obama delivers another scathing attack on the Trump administration's handling of the pandemic. It's game on. Germany's Bundesliga becomes the first major European league to restart, playing to an empty stadium. And ABBA's Waterloo has been named as the greatest Eurovision song of all time by BBC viewers. More than 310,000 people have died as a result of Covid-19 around the world. People in Germany have been protesting against lockdown restrictions put in place to contain the spread of the pandemic. The biggest gathering was in Stuttgart, where 5,000 demonstrators turned out. Others were held in Berlin, Munich and Frankfurt. In Wuhan, where the first cases were detected, authorities say they've tested 3 million people. But residents crowding the test centres are worried that the very act of being tested could expose them to the virus. In India, a court has detained nearly 70 members of an Islamic missionary movement for allegedly spreading coronavirus in the city of Bhopal. Police say the group didn't disclose that its members had been to a large gathering in Delhi in March, where most of the attendees tested positive. In the US, the National High School graduation ceremony is taking place online. Former President Barack Obama and a number of celebrities are taking part. The American Nascar racing season gets underway on Sunday after a 3-month delay caused by coronavirus. The event at Darlington Raceway in South Carolina normally attracts thousands of race fans, but will be held behind closed doors. Each team has been limited to just 16 personnel, including the driver, and strict social distancing measures have been put in place. The teams are set for a busy period to make up for lost time, with 7 races in just 11 days.
Official figures from Brazil suggest that the country now has the 4th largest number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the world, behind the US, Russia and Britain. Brazil recorded over 14,000 new cases in 24 hours. More than 15,000 Brazilians have died. Police in the Polish capital Warsaw have used tear gas against demonstrators protesting about the restrictions imposed there. Hundreds of protesters gathered in a central square in a demonstration that's illegal under the current lockdown rules, which ban large gatherings. It follows smaller protests by business owners who say the authorities are not giving them enough support. Religious services are resuming in parts of Australia under strict conditions as lockdown measures are gradually being eased, but many churches, synagogues and mosques have decided to stay closed because of concerns for the older members of their congregation. Boris Johnson has warned that a vaccine for coronavirus may never come to fruition. Writing in the Mail on Sunday, he acknowledges that the government's new message about staying alert is more complex than just staying at home.
Now, coronavirus has wiped £54 billion from the wealth of Britain's super-rich in the past 2 months, according to the Sunday Times Rich List, which shows more than half of the country's billionaires have suffered losses as high as £6 billion. Well, topping the list is James Dyson. Sustained growth and strong profits despite the pandemic, as well as the falling fortunes of other companies around him, have seen him top the list for the first time. The Hinduja brothers, who topped last year's list, have fallen a place as the virus hit their finances. They're one of the groups on the list to have accessed government help, furloughing around 360 employees at Optare, their North Yorkshire-based bus-making firm. Well, third on the list are the Reuben brothers, another of the 63 people or groups on the rich list to have used the furlough scheme, something that has led to criticism.
It's often essential that staff are being supported through these schemes, but one does wonder that some of the wealthiest people in the UK really need money from the taxpayer to keep their businesses afloat and to support their workers. So given how much wealth they've amassed, in the wealth boom over the last 10 years, one would think maybe they would be able to support workers themselves without taxpayer money.
Former US President Barack Obama has launched another attack on Donald Trump's handling of the coronavirus pandemic. Mr. Obama said many officials aren't even pretending to be in charge. He was speaking at a virtual graduation ceremony for American students.
This pandemic has shaken up the status quo and laid bare a lot of our country's deep-seated problems, from massive economic inequality to ongoing racial disparities to a lack of basic health care for people who need it. It's also pulled the curtain back on another hard truth, something that we all have to eventually accept once our childhood comes to an end. You know, all those adults that you used to think were in charge and knew what they were doing, turns out they don't have all the answers.